It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the many films of October 21st, 2005. I'm not even going to give you a list. We're just going to go ahead and jump on into it because we have a lot of films to cover, and yeah, I'm already wasting your time with this intro. So let's just jump into it. Let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the video game adaptation, Doom. Let's think about this. It's 2005. We haven't had a lot of good video game adaptations up to this point. We're not at the point where they're actually hiring people who know what they're doing with the video game and actually making a movie based off the video game itself. How much do you think they're going to really do to make a proper adaptation of Doom in terms of a big screen movie? Not very well. Not very well at all. This is, of course, based off the series of games by the same company, id Software. You have a film that takes place with Marines sent on a rescue mission to a facility on Mars where they encounter demon-like creatures. And, well, I should mention, this is also directed by the same guy that gave us Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, Andrzej Bartkowiak. Did I kill your buzz yet? Did I kill it yet? It's because I hope so, because, man, if you went to go see this movie, I'm pretty sure you were as disappointed as I was, because good lord, how do you fuck this up so badly? I mean, Dwayne Johnson can be badass sometimes, and you've got some good actors in here: Carl Urban, Rosamund Pike. It has a cool intro. It has a cool intro that gets you kind of excited. You think you're going to get a good movie out of this, and then as soon as that intro ends, the bullshit begins to take place, and the film never comes back from it. It's a complete fabrication of what the video game was supposed to be like. It's a film that really does not feel like it's trying to do anything except to just be a cheap cash grab movie. At least something like Mortal Kombat and the 90s Street Fighter movie were trying, and succeeded in some way, shape, or form. But here, this is just a studio making money because it's a property. People will go see it because of the name recognition. And let's tease the first-person shooter sequence, which, yeah, back then it was cool, but then when you watch it nowadays, it just feels like a cheap move to get people to come see the film. And it doesn't last long either. It literally lasts like 2-3 minutes. And even then, it's not worth it in the end. It's just such a terrible movie, man. This is just such a waste of time, a waste of effort overall, and you should have known it was bad from the director who's involved in it, because he's a hack director. He's never made anything of noteworthiness, as far as I remember. Nothing remembers whatsoever. The only thing that he did that was even remotely decent was Romeo Must Die, and even then, that was barely getting by. But like Exit Wounds, Cradle to the Grave, The Legend of Chun-Li, that should have given you the warning right out the gate that this was not going to be a good movie. So, yeah. I think I can honestly tell you that Doom is pretty bad. So, yeah, avoid this one like the plague. So let's get to a good movie. Let's start. We've already started. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. How about that? Let's say that. Let's go ahead and move on to Dreamer, inspired by a true story. And no, this isn't the 1970s Dreamer with Tim Matheson from Animal House and a bowling equivalent of Rocky. No, really, that's the whole concept of that movie. Cinema Snob has done a great review of it. You should go check that out. But, no, this is a different kind of Dreamer. It's Dreamer inspired by a true story. And we got to have that as the bottom there because that's clearly going to sell the movie to people. But it is inspired by the true story of an injured thoroughbred racehorse named Mariah Storm. And you have Kurt Russell, Dakota Fanning, Chris Christopherson, and Elizabeth Shue among the cast in the film. Written and directed by John Gattens, who has written a couple movies you might be familiar with. Most recently, he had done Coach Carter, and then after this, he would actually be nominated for an Academy Award for writing the script for Flight, a great Denzel Washington movie directed by Robert Zemeckis. But, I mean, it's a story we've seen done to death so many times before. We had a movie earlier in the year that was kind of basically this, Racing Stripes, except take out the horse and make that a zebra. I mean, we've had movies like we have a lot of movies like Flicka coming up next with Secretariat. Seabiscuit, I think, was the big draw that made everybody realize we got to make some horse movies, man. Horse movies are the way to go, yo. And I guess it does work out because the film is okay. I guess not great, but it's good. It's good. Like, it's one that I saw and was just like, okay, this is actually not that bad of a movie, but I've never really had the real desire to go back and watch it in general. From what I remember from it, I did like it in general, and there was nothing about it that was really bad or anything, but it's just, we've seen this kind of story be done over and over again. I think it helps that you do have a good cast with Dakota Fanning and Kurt Russell leading the charge here. And yeah, it's a very heartfelt storyline that does work to the intention of what they're trying to get across here. I think it works fine. I think it works fine as a film in general. I haven't seen it in a while, though, so I don't know if it holds up. I don't know how much it holds up, but I don't think it'll really hurt the film in general if I go back and watch it and find something bad about it. I don't think there really is a lot there that would be bad about it in general, but as it is, it's alright. Alright film indeed. So with that said, let's get to another underrated movie that came out this weekend, Charlize Theron in North Country. Because the 2000s needed a modern version of Norma Rae, I guess. I mean, if you saw Norma Rae, this is pretty much kind of the same movie in general, which is inspired by the 2002 book, Class Action: The Story of Lois Jensen and the Landmark Case That Changed Sexual Harassment Law by Clara Bingham and Laura Levy-Gansler. It chronicles the case of Jensen versus Evelyn Taconite Company and USW Local 2705, which supports the employees' efforts through the horrific events and ensuing legal battles. And you have Charlize Theron at the forefront of this, with a cast that also includes Frances McDormand, Sean Bean, Richard Jenkins, Jeremy Renner, Michelle Monaghan, who's got another movie we'll take a look at in just a little bit, Woody Harrelson, Sissy Spacek. This is Nikki Caro, who directed Whale Rider before this, and it's kind of an underrated film. It was a film that kind of came and went. It was supposed to be like Warner Brothers' big Oscar push movie for 2005, one of the big ones they had. And like I said, it did kind of come and go. It wasn't a big blockbuster hit. It did well with critics, and Charlize Theron and Frances McDormand did actually get a couple Oscar nominations for this film, but didn't win them. But they're both really good in the movie, and the film overall is good. It's a really good film that I think is getting its point across pretty well. But like I said, it is pretty much just a modern version of Norma Rae. Like, Norma Rae had kind of a similar storyline in general, and I think that's done better. But in this movie, I think it works very well for what they're trying to go for here. And nothing too spectacular about it, nothing too amazing, but it is definitely an underrated film. One I don't think that gets the proper attention, and has a really good underrated Charlize Theron performance. So I recommend it on that front. Definitely check it out, North Country. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here. A movie with Ewan McGregor, Ryan Gosling, Naomi Watts, and Bob Hoskins, directed by the same guy who did Finding Neverland the year before. And you probably never even heard about it. This is Stay. Speaking of movies that were probably trying to copy a trend that they thought was going to be successful, like White Noise and The Jacket are very similar films that came out around this time of the year with a similar plot to this. This is a film about, as the synopsis here says, a thought-provoking and haunting exploration of how reality and dream states may combine to form complex interactions. The line between the imagination and reality blurs when an accomplished psychiatrist takes on a patient that appears to be suicidal. So there's a little bit of also of Jacob's Ladder in there, the criminally underrated Tim Robbins movie from 1990. Like I said, directed by Mark Forster, who before this gave us Monsters Ball and Finding Neverland, and David Benoff, who had written Troy and did 25th Hour before this. So there is good talent all across the board here, but a very muddled film there that doesn't really work to what the film is trying to accomplish here. It's definitely a very disappointing film in general, because the cast is there, the writing is there, the direction is there, but it doesn't have a clear idea of what the overall message of the film is trying to be. Like, what am I supposed to get across from this? Like, it's trying to be one of those murder mystery thrillers that you're supposed to keep getting invested in as the film goes on. And as the film goes on, it just gets really boring, and nothing of interest happens after the second half of the movie. It just kind of like drags on and on and on. But you can also tell that Mark Forster has all these different styles he wants to put in here. As I mentioned before, Jacob's Ladder, but according to Wikipedia, he's also using a lot of different styles, including his references to films like Vertigo or the works of Nicholas Rowe. And yeah, you can make as many of those references as you want to, but if you need to give me a good story to really go along with the visual effects here, because yeah, like I said, I've always said this, like, a movie can have great visuals, but if the story ain't that good, it's not worth saving the film in general. If the visuals do not make the fucking movie, and this is definitely an example of the visual look of the film not saving the fucking movie, because man, this is such a letdown when it's all said and done. It starts off with a promising cast, a promising director, and a promising writer, but everything else, like, it doesn't really leave you with anything when you come out of it. It's just like, it even gets a little bit too pretentious for its own good, pretty much. Like, I liked Mark Forster as a director, but This is definitely one of his lesser films in general, and one I would say hard skip on this one, unfortunately. But so that is Stay. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. Another movie you probably have never heard of, but there's a talented cast involved in here, at least in some areas. We'll talk more about that after I show you a little bit of Kids in America. And this may be one of the worst raunchy high school movies you'll ever see, because yeah, this is pretty rough of a film. The movie centers around a diverse group of high school students banding together to peacefully stick it to their overbearing principal, played by Julie Bowen. In addition to her, of course, from Modern Family, you also have a cast that includes Gregory Smith from Everwood. You also have Malik Yoba, Adam Arkin, George Wendt, Samantha Mathis, Rosanna Arquette, Elizabeth Perkins, Charlotte Shaughnessy, Kim Coles. For some reason, Nicole Richie's also in here, too, because, hey, if Paris Hilton can have a film career, why not Nicole Richie? Well, Paris Hilton's film career is not off to a strong start, and needless to say, Nicole Richie's isn't either. But, yeah, this is pretty bad, and that trailer really isn't saving it either. This is a film that, like I said, it wants to be a raunchy comedy, but that PG-13 rating isn't going to do jack shit if you think that's going to sell people on a film like this. And, yeah, it's just not a good movie, man. It's just really, really lackluster. Like, the jokes don't work very well here. It's lazy jokes. Like, this feels like a movie that was written originally as a CBS pilot for a comedy series that never went anywhere. That's what this movie feels like. And yeah, it just didn't work for me. It's just a movie that is so bland, so unfunny, so wanting to go to that R rating but can't because it's bounded by the limitations of the PG-13 rating, and just wastes a really good cast in general, a really good supporting cast, I should say. But yeah, this one's a hard skip. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is, we're getting back to some underrated gems here, starting with Steve Martin, Jason Schwartzman, and Claire Danes in Shop Girl. So you see two-thirds of the love triangle involved in this movie between a disenchanted sales girl, a wealthy businessman, and an aimless young man, that young man being played by Jason Schwartzman. And makes for a really good movie. This was written by Steve Martin. This is actually based off of his novella of the same name. And as you can see, it's more of a dramedy than it is a straight-up comedy. And I think that's amazing. That's one of the amazing things about the movie in general. You have a strong cast, three really talented actors at the top of their game, and a really good storyline between these characters in general. And it's a very interesting character study. It's a really intriguing film with some great performances all the way through. It's a much smaller, more refined film. It's not going for anything too bombastic or too big, but it's a nice little slice of life type of storyline here that takes a lot of inspirations from stuff like Lost in Translation, you know, the whole May-December relationship thing. I think Lost in Translation does it better in general, but this one does it pretty good too. And like I said, when you got people like Steve Martin and Claire Danes among the people in the cast, you're usually going to turn up a really good movie in the end. And this is a really solid, really entertaining film. One I highly recommend checking out. So definitely check this one out, Shop Girl. And so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. The acting lessons may suck, but this movie certainly does not. And I've talked about this movie in length in another video I did, kind of like with Cinderella yesterday on the Review Network on Time About Movies Flashback. I did my top 30 favorite movies, and this is number 22 on my list. So if you want to go check out my full review of that, I'll leave a link to it in the corner right here. But if you don't know this movie, I'll be real quick on it. You have Robert Downey Jr. as a petty thief posing as an actor who's brought into Los Angeles for an unlikely audition, finding himself in the middle of a murder investigation along with his high school dream girl played by Michelle Monaghan and a detective played by Val Kilmer, who's been training him for his upcoming role. I mean, it's a really, really good movie. The greatness of what Kiss Kiss Bang Bang offers you, like, you just can't believe that a guy like Shane Black, who is so good with smaller movies like this and The Nice Guys, when he gets a bigger budgeted film like The Predator or Iron Man 3, all that greatness just goes away, and it's just like, what happened with those blockbuster films? Did the studios get involved in that, or is just Shane Black not ready to tackle big, heavy projects like that? But either way, this is a really good film. It's really well done. This film does a very good job of completely working on all levels. You got a great, enjoyable action comedy that combines everything that we see in great action comedies. Great characters played by great actors. Smart and sharp comedy Try saying that 3 times fast, because I certainly can't. Great dark humor, solid action sequences, great chemistry between its stars, and just an overall solid plot that all comes together for a very enjoyable film experience that warrants a lot of repeated viewing every time you finish watching it. It's a great movie, and I can't recommend it enough. I mean, like I said, I've already gone into detail of how much I love this movie. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, one of my all-time favorite films, and it's really not hard to see why, so definitely, I highly recommend that one. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here, which is National Lampoon's Barely Legal. You're 23 years old. I'm not even kidding. When this movie came out, Eric Von Dent was 23 years old. And this was a film that was supposedly shot back in 2003. So even then, he's 21. He should be out of high school by this point. But the story behind this movie is that you have 3 male high school students, which, again, that's questionable, especially considering one of them is freaking 23 years old at the time this movie comes out. 3 male high school students who decide to make money by selling pornographic videos in the hopes of gaining both women and standing among their peers. Now, I forget to mention this was directed by the same guy that gave us The Sandlot. Same director. This is written by the guy that gave us one of the guys that wrote American Pie. So, yeah, the talent is definitely there. The movie has no talent whatsoever. Like, Jesus, man, what happened to these people? Like, these people have made good stuff in the past, but this just feels so generic and so bland. How the hell did this get a theatrical release? I don't care if it is National Lampoon. Think about it. Animal House, Vacation. Am I missing any other National Lampoon movies that made it to theaters that were actually considered good films? I don't think so. Van Wilder, I guess. I mean, Van Wilder 1 is kind of fun. I mean, there's probably some other ones I'm definitely missing here, but most of these movies that came out by National Lampoon did not hold up as well as some of the classic films they've done. And this is definitely another one of those movies that really does feel like a film that's completely just there for the name of National Lampoon because they think it'll sell, and it didn't sell. It was not a big hit. It wasn't a big hit when it went to DVD either. So why even bother making the movie then? Why? Just why? This whole movie is such a mess of a film. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's nothing. It's not even a good, dirty, raunchy movie either. And like, there's not even enough there to say that hey, you can go find this stuff online. Even if you go online to try to find some of the nude scenes in this, it's still not worth it when it's all said and done. Like, you just wasted minutes of your. This movie is so bad it even wastes minutes of your time trying to look for the nude scenes. That's how bad this movie is. Just a terrible, terrible film. Yeah, avoid this one like the plague. It's another bad National Lampoon movie that we're trying to make the next big thing, and it just wasn't. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll take a look at 4 movies this time around. We have the sequel to last year's big breakout hit, Saw 2, the sequel to The Mask of Zorro, which people probably were asking for in 2000 and 2001, but not 2005. But hey, they got everybody back from the last movie, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Antonio Banderas, the director Martin Campbell, The Legend of Zorro. We also have Uma Thurman and Meryl Streep in Prime, and probably one of my favorite underrated Nicolas Cage movies of all time, The Weatherman. So we've got some movies to talk about next time around, and we'll delve into all those, all on the next episode. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so you know when new videos get posted up here. We post here every day. So with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.